Today we're talking about ArcheAge. When someone leaves a toxic game behind, one that they've invested several hundred hours into, they tend to refer to that game as an ex-girlfriend. But ArcheAge is the ex-girlfriend, at least when it comes to MMORPG, specifically Eastern MMORPG enjoyers. ArcheAge is She's the one that had that bomb ass.
Hey, yo!
No matter how bad the issues, you just kept going back to it. Whether or not you had a good or bad experience, if you were someone that invested several hundred or thousands of hours into these games, it was a big fucking part of your life. Like think about that. Think about spending thousands of hours in a game. And think about how many hours are in a day. Bro, you put thousands into that game.
You fucking know life.
And to people on the outside, to people outside of this sphere, they probably look at us like,
what the fuck is wrong with you?
But to us, man, that shit was an entire life. That was another life. A second life, if you will. The memories, the friends you've made, like, people fucking hate and despise League of Legends. I understand. They talk about that game as if it was an old drug addiction and refuse to step back into it. But there was a time in their lives where they played it for several years with their wife that they met in League of Legends. And look at them now. They have 2 kids, 2 dogs, 1 cat. They're very happy, but neither one of them play that shit. They're disgusted just thinking about it. And the thing is, though they look at it in a negative light, that was a whole nother life for them, man. At that time that they were playing it, maybe they were miserable, but they were putting a lot of time into it. They met each other, blah, blah, blah. For me, ArcheAge was that second life. The company may have done some bullshit. It may have been pay to win. It may have started, was it like 19 or 47 fresh starts? I don't know. One of those. Maybe somewhere in between. Too many fucking fresh starts. ArcheAge will always be like the most memorable game for me. Probably the most memorable game for me. I mean, like, of course, the ones I grew up on, like Zelda, the childhood games will be there in the core memory bank, but ArcheAge was just such an investment for me. It was like a huge form of escapism, more than any other game I've ever played, and it's where Cryy was birthed, in ArcheAge. Like, Cryy wouldn't exist without ArcheAge. No, I'll never play it again. I think about the game all the time, and I think about, like, man, I just want to download it just so I can hear the fucking music of certain towns and shit and get, like, nostalgic. But unfortunately, like, I can't really enjoy dead games. So even if I really enjoy it, if I realize that there's no player base for it, it's just not fun. It feels like a ghost town. Same with trading card games. There's some really good trading card games out there, but if I tried to find a tournament for it and only 2 people show up or 3 people or none some weeks, it's like, man, why am I playing this? Like, I need some form of community. That being said, with ArcheAge, I love it. I miss it. I won't go back, but there's an ArcheAge 2. Now, this is not new news. In fact, this trailer was uploaded 8 months ago on the IGN channel, maybe some other channels as well, maybe even a time before that. I don't know. I wasn't around. I remember hearing about it. I think I watched like a little bit of the trailer, but I was just like, whatever, bro. This is just Black Desert. Like, that's where my mind went. This just looks like Black Desert. One of the previous videos I made about Chrono Odyssey, which I think looks fucking amazing, is they both, you can say they look like Black Desert, but that's just because Black Desert is like a very realistic looking Eastern MMORPG. And it kind of, I would say, like, set the standard for Eastern MMOs that follow a theme of realism. So they still get that waifu look to them, but them thighs don't lie. The pores on the characters don't lie. That shit looks good, glistening, dripping, sexy. So it's like anytime we see a game that has action combat, it's an Eastern MMO, the characters are like armored in some medieval theme, it's like, that's Black Desert. I don't mean to like say that as an insult. It's not an insult. To look like Black Desert means you look good. That was kind of where my mind went. Oh, another Black Desert clone, like on surface level without looking into it. So I'm actually going to watch the trailer this time around and share my thoughts. Looks like it's only 1 minute and 30 seconds. So yeah, I'm gonna watch the trailer, check it out. We'll see, how I feel about it, what I think about it. Shout out to my previous Chrono Odyssey video. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I put a pop filter onto this microphone and now it just like looks like a round dickhead. Yeah. Excel Games, a logo I haven't seen in years. And we have a ship, which means naval combat confirmed, but this wouldn't be ArcheAge without naval combat, so It doesn't have naval combat, I don't want it. Alright. Beautiful scenery, animals to be slaughtered. Milked, herded for the farms that are in the actual fucking game, so you know only 10% of the player base can get them, but that's okay. What's going on here? Are these guys about to rob this group of traders? Alright, this looks good. So we're going action combat this time around. Hold on, bro, I gotta bring that back. Not because like I'm fucking amazed, it's just I don't know, man. I don't believe this small clip right there is like gameplay. I mean, of course they're trying to sell this and make it look good, but I love the area though, like the swamp area. I was always a fan of the swamp, murky areas in ArcheAge, so I'm happy to see that. Got big ass. This is Screaming Black Desert because of the ogre or troll or cyclops, whatever it is. And these dragons are sick. Did he just parry the... Did he parry it? It looked like he parried it. He parried it. Okay. When you see shit like they're showing off a bunch of fights where it's like a 1v1 with the monster, it's like, is this an MMORPG, bro? Like, I want to see some group gameplay. It's supposed to be massively multiplayer, and the way that they sometimes advertise these games comes off as like a single player. Even Chrono Odyssey had a lot of single player moments, but then they threw in moments where you're like, okay, this is a raid. This is a world boss. I mean, the only thing that I kind of noticed was it looked like there was a trade run being done, and maybe some players were running towards it, if that was part of the same scene, but we saw a trade run. So it's like, okay, that's going to be a thing. Okay, so after watching over the video a second time before uploading, I did notice that in the trailer I'm reacting to, there actually is group gameplay or group content. So when you're looking at some of these fights, there are actually other players. Sometimes one other player, sometimes two, but you have to like watch it and really like be looking around or kind of run it back, because just a one watch through, you might miss it. So what I'm saying here is no longer valid because actually, there are other players. But if I could word it differently, I guess I would say I would want to see what makes ArcheAge, meaning like large group content, raids. Sure, ArcheAge did have group content like dungeons and things like that, but when you're out in the world and you're doing the actual like content that ArcheAge is known for, contesting world bosses, fighting the Kraken or Leviathan on the sea, naval combat, it's usually done in very large groups. And if we're comparing it to the footage that I've used in the background for this video, a lot of it you're just seeing large raid content. The only thing we really saw in this trailer that shows anything ArcheAge related to me is the fact that we got a glimpse of a ship and we see what looks like a trade run with a bunch of wagons. But other than that, it just looked like another AAA MMORPG with action combat. And even now, watching over it, maybe it's not action combat. I don't know if that's confirmed. It could just be really pretty combat. Looking at some of the skills, they did seem to lock on to the enemies. But we could talk about that another time. Basically, if I could reword this, what I want to say is I want to see large group content because that's kind of what made ArcheAge. So seeing just a focus on a player versus a creature or a very small group of players, like it just doesn't scream ArcheAge. So yeah, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I just wanted to add this into the video before people are like, actually, there was another player at 45 seconds, because yeah, I am seeing that now. So if you're not familiar with trade runs, a big part of ArcheAge was naval combat. You could sail anywhere in the ocean. You can jump onto other ships and rob people. And a big part of ArcheAge was the economy, it was the marketplace, and it was doing trade runs where you will take different resources, products, and shit like that from one continent to the other, or you could even go to other parts of your continent through like trade wagons or cars or ships. And the further that you would travel to deliver these goods, the better the reward. But also the more risky it was because people could rob and kill you on your way to doing these trade runs. So that was a huge part of ArcheAge that we haven't really seen in other games. That's what made it so amazing and toxic and just such a good PvP game. yeah, I'm gonna say this trailer, honestly, like if I'm looking at it as just a game trailer and not ArcheAge, it's not really bringing anything new to the table. It just kind of looked like Black Desert, Crimson Desert, but because I know it's ArcheAge, it's exciting to see like the upgrade in graphics. That looks amazing. But one thing about ArcheAge for me that I really liked, you guys might disagree with me, was the tab targeting. I feel like ArcheAge really nailed tab targeting combat. The amount of reflexes needed to actually be good at ArcheAge with your like 40 different skill slots and having knowledge of 50 plus different class combinations of what you're going against, because I think they did market 120 classes because of all the combinations you can do, but really only like 20 to 50 of those were viable. Having to like react and deal with other players in large groups with the shit ton of skills the game gave you, I feel like it went really well with the tab targeting. And for some reason, I just love it, and that could just be because it was like the first MMO that really drew me in and I got hooked on. So maybe my first love was tab targeting, but I will always like tab targeting combat. I still love action combat as well. It's immersive, you know, but I love tab targeting. That's it. I think ArcheAge 2 looks good as far as graphics go. But as far as like just a game in general, it looks okay. Compared to the sea of games that we have already, or that have released in the last couple of years, and games that are upcoming, it doesn't really stand out. But as a fan of ArcheAge, I don't really feel excited because I feel like this is almost a completely different game, if that makes sense. I know it has naval combat and it will have trade runs, hopefully, because that was in the trailer. But the game itself just looks like a completely different game. And I don't know if like that's how it should be, because it is the sequel, so they need to aim to make an entirely different game, action combat focused. But coming from the tab targeting, just the aesthetic of the other game compared to this, they just look like completely different games. Like it doesn't resemble the old one at all to me. And I don't know whether or not to be happy about that, like, oh, so much change, like it looks so good, or to be like, this is just gonna feel like an entirely different game with the name ArcheAge slapped on it. It's also 6 in the morning. I haven't slept for like a day, and my thoughts right now might not be the same thoughts that I have tomorrow if I watch this trailer again, but this is how I feel. Okay, well, if a new trailer comes out that shows the gameplay, you know, shows it off a bit more, or anything more of the game, let me know, guys, and I'll check it out. With that being said, I will catch you all in the next video. See you soon, friends.